Hi, I'm Wendy, and I am the pastor at the Dayton Church and part of the Presbytery of New Brunswick. One of my guilty pleasures during this period of quarantine has been exploring the social media network TikTok, much to the chagrin of my daughters. Remember the meaningless arguments that we had just a few years ago about this picture of a dress? Some people looked at the picture and insisted that it was gold, but others looked at the dress and argued that it was blue. Well, on TikTok, there's a whole bunch of videos that you can watch that offer up another example of how people perceive things differently. In this video, most people, not all people, but most people only hear the word that they're reading. So if you're reading the words green needle, well, those are the words that you hear spoken out loud. But if you're reading the word brainstorm, then that's the word that you hear. I have watched this video about a dozen times. It's just kind of amazing to me that our perception of what we're hearing can shift so radically based on what we're seeing. There's a name for this. It's called the McGurk effect. It turns out the visual information a person gets from seeing someone speak changes the way that they hear sound. Again, it doesn't work on all people, and it doesn't work all the time. The conditions need to be just right. The McGurk effect is way more likely to happen when there's a great quality to what you're seeing, but a poor quality in the audio that you're hearing. That means our perceptions, our ways of understanding or interpreting things are often filtered through disparity. The McGurk effect means that we effectively see and hear the words that we choose to pay attention to, usually enabled by a lack of equity within what there is to perceive in the first place. I think this dynamic, this phenomenon of hearing the words that we make the choice to focus our eyes upon is more prevalent than we realize. And for this video segment, when I say we, I really mean prevalent for those of us who get to function under the construct of being white. And particularly those same people who, like me, would identify as progressive Christians. There are some words we read or hear, and there is within us a near instant emotional response that triggers a compulsive reaction to either not hear them, distort them, or avert our eyes in search of a different one. Take this word, for example. Reparations. If you just went by its definition, it's a word that can mean actions taken to make amends, offering expiation, or giving satisfaction for a wrong or an injury. And it's a word rightly being shared now as a matter of justice, particularly for people of African descent. The people on whose backs our country, its economics, and opportunities to pursue the American dream were built. First through the kidnap and enslavement of our siblings of color, and then after slavery with sanctioned violence, policy and practices that were designed to ensure that people of color didn't have the opportunity to pursue all that we hold as exceptional about America. I think that white Christian progressives understand reparations to the people of African descent as a social justice issue. We all well know that there are white people who don't or won't be woken to the truth. Right now, though, I'm looking to speak to the progressives among us and asking for a reckoning. Because I believe when we hear the word reparations, it's filtered through an emotional response that makes us hear it like this. It feels huge. All this word asks for, all it stands for, all that there is to try and figure out how we might be part of helping to make this happen is so big that we don't know where we would even start. And so we push it to the side. We disregard it being some of our own work. We stop listening. In the TikTok video I showed, you got to experience how when there's a disparity between what we perceive, we only hear the word we choose to focus our eyes on. It has a name. It's the McGurk effect. There's a name for the perceptual phenomenon that allows us to push aside or disregard or stop listening when the topic of reparations is raised. Its name is privilege. Privilege that even with the best intentions, we can opt in or out. The blanket of privilege covers even those who are engaged or invested in anti-racism training, who feel sorrow or guilt over the sin of slavery, because at the end of the day, it's those of us who function as white people that continue to benefit from what those who are of African descent have by their labor and forced sacrifice built. Privilege enables the vehicle of disparity that distorts the sound of the word reparations and reduces it to this. Progressive Christians, we long to be repairers of the breach that Isaiah speaks of. But the breach cannot be repaired by continuing to marvel at how big it is, or by thinking that our sorrow, our tears, or even the apologies that might be made are enough. All of those things are important, but those alone are like trying to build something without glue or nails. Reparations are a path to restorative justice. So what can you do? Don't look away from the work that's larger than you and me. Be accountable in all of those places that you might have stopped listening. Be intentional about hearing the voices of our siblings of color. Ask your churches to study H.R. 40 alongside the Confession of Belhar. H.R. 40 is a piece of legislation that's slated to go before the House of Representatives to address the fundamental injustice, cruelty, brutality, and inhumanity of slavery in the United States and the 13 American colonies between 1619 and 1865, and to establish a commission to study and consider a national apology and the proposals for reparations for the Institute of Slavery and all that has come after it. In the New Testament, the word for repair is used in Matthew and Luke to describe what the fishermen were doing to their nets in the moments before Jesus called them to come and follow. The word can mean to mend, but it can also be used to mean joined together perfectly. As Paul wrote, put things in order. Listen to my appeal. Be perfectly joined together. Live in peace. And may the God of love and peace be with you all now and always.